Hello biology apprentices, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about double trait crosses, or also called Dihybrid crosses, using Punnett square. So let's go to it. First, we need to remember some of the observations that the father of genetics gave us. Gregor Mendel is the father of genetics because he made observations using pea plants. He crossed them in special ways, and he was able to determine which of these 7 characteristics were dominant, which ones were recessive, and how these traits were inherited to the next generation. The first row will be defined as the dominant traits for pea plants, and the lower row will be the recessive traits. Some of the laws and rules that are still used nowadays. The first observation led us to the rule of dominance. Rule of dominance explains that if we have 2 pure-breed organisms, one being dominant and one being recessive, all the offspring must be heterozygous and will have the phenotype of the dominant allele. This is a pure-breed organism for dominant R allele, and this is a pure-breed organism for a recessive trait. All the offspring will be heterozygous, and they will have the phenotype of the dominant, because if in the genes they have at least one dominant allele, that will be the one winning the race to be expressed in the phenotype. The second observation, it is called as the law of segregation. When an organism produces its gametes, these alleles are going to be splitted. We have an heterozygous organism, and their gametes will have one dominant gene and one recessive one. The same will happen with this parent. The third law is the law of independent assortment, which in a summarized way can be explained as all the traits that an organism has can be inherited independently from one another. In the case of pea plants, these 7 characteristics could be mixed up in the genotype of the offspring. In other words, we can have dominant and recessive traits mixed in the phenotype. There could be a plant with terminal and purple flowers, with yellow seeds, and a wrinkled shape, and probably in an inflated pot with a green pot and being tall plants. Many different combinations when you think about the law of independent assortment. So let's go to the exercise. To summarize things up, we're going to consider 2 traits when we make our crosses: the color of the seed, being green or yellow, and the color of the flower, being purple or white. Now, our problem says calculate the ratios of the genotype and phenotype for the next crosses. Parent number 1 will be dominant homozygous for this color and dominant homozygous for purple flowers. The other parent will be recessive homozygous for both of the traits. So let's figure this out. The first thing to do is to determine the phenotype. One parent will be green with purple flowers, and the other one yellow with white flowers. The first parent, it is said to be dominant homozygous for both conditions. In this case, we will have 2 uppercase letters for green color and 2 uppercase letters as well, but for purple color, like this. In the case of the second parent, the same will happen, but let's consider that they are recessive homozygous, which means same letters but in a lower case. I'm going to use the same letters, G and P, because it's the same gene, but in the recessive form and in a lower case. Once you have the genotypes of the parents, the next thing to do is to get the gametes. And for this, you need to consider the law of independent assortment. Remember that the alleles are going to be split in the gametes in every possible combination. The first G can be split in the gamete with the first P, but we can have also this G with this last P, and this G with this P, and this G with the last P. If you can see in this example, all the gametes are going to have the same combination because we don't have much alleles to consider. We only have uppercase G and uppercase P. The same would happen with the second part, but with recessive letters. All the gametes will have lowercase alleles. Once we have the gametes, we're going to place them in the Punnett square. These are the gametes for parent number 1. These are the gametes for parent number 2. And then I'm going to give you 3 suggestions so you can fill up the Punnett square easily. First, you're going to write uppercase letters. Number 2 is to group letters according to the type. G's with G's, P's with P's. And finally, if you start writing G's at the beginning of your combinations, then you continue writing G's until you finish the Punnett square. So For the first square, we're going to have G uppercase first with G lowercase, G's together. P uppercase first and then P lowercase, P's together. This will be the genotype for the first square. If you can see, we don't have much options in the gametes, so the rest of the Punnett square will be filled like this. Now what will happen with the actual answer of the problem? The genotypes, it's going to be quite simple, but the phenotypes, what do you think? Yes, you had them right. Because all of the offspring have at least one uppercase for green and one uppercase for purple, all the offspring will be green and purple. But remember that they are carrier for the yellow and the white genes. They can't be shown because of the rule of dominance. One dominant gene will hide or mask the presence of the other. What would happen if we cross a green-seeded plant with purple flowers, with a green-seeded plant and purple flower as well, but both being heterozygous? We have the phenotypes of the parents, green with purple. But because the problem says they are heterozygous, we're going to have one upper and one lower case for each of the traits, like this. Now, remember the law of independent assortment? We need to get as much combinations as we can for the gametes. So, the first G can go with the first P, that's one combination. First G with last P, second G with first P, and second G with the last P. The combinations will go graphically like this. And for the other parent, they will be the same. Once we have the gametes, we're going to place them in the Punnett square, and it is time for us to fill up the squares. Remember the three suggestions. Uppercase letter first, group letters together, and if you start writing with one letter, you continue like that until you finish the square. So for the first square, we have two uppercase G's and two uppercase P's. In the next case, pay attention. We have two G's uppercase, but I'm going to write the P letter first because it's going to make easier for me this exercise. Dominant or uppercase letters will go first or previous to the lowercase. The next case is going to be G uppercase, G lowercase, P uppercase, and a double condition. Then we're going to have this one. Try to stop the video and fill up the square by remembering the rules. Next row will be like this. Next row will be like this, and let's see if you got the last one. Once we have filled up the Punnett square, it is time for us to make the analysis. For the phenotypes, we're going to have four possible combinations. The offspring could be green with purple flowers, green with white flowers, yellow with purple flowers, and yellow with white flowers. For obtaining these results, we're going to use ratios. How many squares do you have in this grid? You have 16 options. For the possible combinations, how many could be green with purple? Remember the rule of dominance. If they have at least one dominant allele for each of the traits, that will be the trait winning. In this case, this will be green with purple. Green, this one, number 4. This one, number 5. What will happen with this? It won't be purple, right? Because we don't have a dominant here. This will be also green with purple, green with purple, green with purple, and this could be the last one. So how many green with purple offspring do we have? 9 out of 16. The next possible combination will be green with white. Remember, we're going to look for at least one uppercase letter for the green color, and in this case, we must have two lowercase letters for letter P because white color is recessive. So can you count them? Pause the video. We have 3 out of 16. This one will be green with white as well, and green with white. What will happen with the yellow and purple options? 3 out of 16. This one is yellow with purple, and yellow with purple. Remember that if they have at least one uppercase here, that will be the trait winning. And finally, for the last trait, it will be just 1 out of 16. So that will be all for this class. You can pause the video and return it if you have doubts. It will be important for you to remember these 3 suggestions. Hope you have enjoyed it. Remember to use your scientific thinking and to love biology. See you later. Bye.